For nearly a century, people have stared at the Nazca lines and asked the same question. Why? Why would ancient people carve huge shapes into the desert? Why make drawings so large they only make sense from above? And why did they leave behind birds, monkeys, spiders, strange human figures, long lines, symbols, pathways, and patterns across one of the driest places on Earth? For years, the mystery felt almost frozen in place. Then artificial intelligence started looking. And suddenly, hundreds of hidden figures began to appear. Not because they had just been made, not because the desert had changed, but because we had finally built a machine that could notice what human eyes kept missing. Researchers studying the Nazca region in Peru used AI to search through massive amounts of aerial and geospatial imagery, and the results were not small. A 2024 study reported 303 newly discovered figurative geoglyphs. In just 6 months of field survey, that is the kind of number that makes you stop, because it took almost a century to identify hundreds of known figurative Nazca geoglyphs. Then AI helped reveal hundreds more in a fraction of the time. But this is where we need to be careful. AI did not magically solve the Nazca mystery. It did not look at the desert and suddenly understand an ancient civilization. It helped identify possible shapes, possible patterns, possible figures. Then humans still had to check them. Archaeologists still had to go into the field. Experts still had to decide what was real. So this is not a story about machines replacing archaeologists. It is stranger than that. It is a story about machines showing archaeologists where to look. And that may change everything. Because the Nazca Desert is not empty. It only looks empty if you do not know how to read it. Across the landscape are geoglyphs created by removing darker surface stones and exposing lighter ground underneath. Some are massive, some are subtle, some are easy to recognize, some are barely visible. And many of the newly identified figures are not the famous giant images most people know. They are smaller, harder to see, easier to miss. Relief-type geoglyphs, figures that may have been seen by people walking nearby, not just viewed from high above. That detail matters, because it changes the question. Maybe some Nazca geoglyphs were not made for the sky. Maybe they were made for people moving through the landscape, people walking paths, following routes, passing from one place to another, seeing certain images at certain points. And if that is true, then these were not just drawings. They may have been part of a system, a visual route, a ritual landscape, a way of telling stories without writing them down. Later updates from researchers connected to the work suggest many newly discovered geoglyphs appear to be arranged along footpaths in themed groupings, some linked to priests, some to birds of prey, some to llamas, some to scenes of decapitation. And that is where the mystery gets darker, because these figures may not be random. They may have been deliberately placed, not scattered art, not decoration, not ancient doodles, but symbols arranged in a way that meant something to the people who walked past them. Imagine moving through the desert 2,000 years ago. No road signs, no written explanation, just paths, shapes, figures, animals, human forms, ritual scenes, images that appear in sequence. Maybe they warned you, maybe they guided you, maybe they told stories, maybe they reminded you who you were, where you were going, and what the land meant. Or maybe we are still forcing modern logic onto something that worked in a completely different way. That is the problem with the Nazca lines. They are clear enough to see, but not clear enough to explain. A bird is a bird. A monkey is a monkey. A person holding something is a person holding something. But meaning is harder. Was it religious, political, practical, astronomical, a map, a ritual route, a memory system, a way to mark water, power, sacrifice, family groups, or movement? The more geoglyphs we find, the bigger the mystery gets. Because more evidence does not always mean fewer questions. Sometimes it means better questions. Before AI, the Nazca lines could feel like a handful of famous symbols. The hummingbird, the monkey, the spider, the whale, the huge lines across the desert. But now, the picture looks much more crowded. Hundreds more figures, more categories, more possible patterns, more links between paths and images. And suddenly, the desert does not look like one mystery. It looks like a language we cannot read. Maybe not a written language, maybe not words, but a system of signs. A landscape filled with messages that were obvious to the people who made them and almost invisible to us. Until now. That is the unsettling part. AI did not create the mystery. It revealed how much of the mystery we had not even noticed. And if that is happening at Nazca, where else is it happening? How many ancient sites have been missed because the pattern was too faint? How many ruins are hiding in satellite images? How many lost roads, burial mounds, field systems, settlements, and sacred places are sitting in plain sight? Not buried deep underground, not locked behind stone doors, just waiting for someone or something to notice the shape. There is a slightly uncomfortable question here. If AI can now scan landscapes faster than humans ever could, are we about to enter a new age of archaeology, or are we about to create a new problem? Because machines are good at finding patterns. Sometimes too good. A model can suggest a shape. A human still has to ask if that shape means anything. Is it a geoglyph? Is it erosion? Is it damage? Is it coincidence? Is it something modern? Is it a false positive that only looks mysterious because we want it to be? That tension is what makes this discovery so interesting. AI can speed up the search, but it cannot replace judgment. It can point at the desert and say, "Look here," but it cannot fully answer, "What does this mean?" And maybe that is exactly why the Nazca lines still matter. Because even with drones, satellites, machine learning, high-resolution imagery, and modern archaeology, we are still looking at marks in the ground made by people who are gone. People whose beliefs we do not fully understand. People whose rituals, fears, journeys, and stories may have been mapped into the desert itself. The official story is already incredible. AI helped archaeologists find hundreds of previously unknown geoglyphs. The known number has risen dramatically. Some of the figures appear arranged along paths. Some may have been part of storytelling, ritual, movement, or memory. But the bigger question is still open. What was the Nazca Desert really? A ceremonial landscape? A sacred map? A giant open-air storybook? A warning system? A pilgrimage route? Or something we do not have the right modern category for? Because the more AI finds, the less this looks like isolated ancient art. It starts to look like a whole hidden system. A system almost erased by time, almost invisible from the ground, almost too large for humans to process. And now, suddenly, machines are helping us see it. So maybe AI did not solve the Nazca lines. Maybe it did something more important. It showed us that the mystery was much bigger than we thought. And if hundreds of figures were still hiding in one of the most famous archaeological landscapes on Earth, then what else are we missing? What else is lying in the desert? What else is sitting under forests, fields, cities, and coastlines? And how much of human history is not gone, but simply waiting to be noticed?